Indeed. Oxygen starting off on defense. They'll have the two outer bands. Soniqs has the two central ones. We'll take a look and see who they're going to be knocking out first since we're on Oregon. There's a couple things left up in the air with what you'd like to get rid of, but Oxygen are going to trend towards the meta with regards to what we've been seeing get knocked out, and Thatcher will be the first operator to get removed. Soniqs immediately have their second choice ready to go, so we're in for a pretty quick ban phase here as Ace will be the other attacker knocked out of this match.
Not a big surprise there, as he's had so much influence for Oxygen, and especially Kino in particular, who's been really strong on that operator, so might as well get rid of that. Soniqs now thinking about this defensive ban. The offensive bans, that's pretty straightforward when it comes to Oregon and its playstyle. Just try to hinder the hard breach in any way possible. Mira going to get removed as well on the defense, and that's another bread and butter one right there.
Definitely the case here. And the final one, not too much of a surprising pick here, as Valkyrie is going to get knocked out once again. She's been the go-to pick for defender next to Mira or whatever the other map calls for in recent times. So she sits pretty high on the most banned list currently as far as North American bans are concerned. That'll take us out of that, though, and into our initial round. Let's take a look and see. Oh, no, Fox. We'll see what exactly OXG have to show us for their defensive half opener here.
I was looking over at the stats, and I look back and I just see Fox say 007. Okay, see, now this is where I'm okay with the names. This is where I'm completely okay with the names.
I can still cast with that.
I still know it's you, Fox.
So, yeah.
I still know it's you. Anyways, Oxygen going to be starting on defense here, and usually that's going to be the favorable side coming into Oregon. Now, for our overtime here, just double checking this really quickly so I give you guys the proper stuff. Yes, it is Soniqs, excuse me, on defense for overtime if we do end up crossing that bridge. Now, for Oxygen, they want to start off strong here because of that. So, looking to be dominant from this defensive side.
Let's take a look and see. We got a pretty standard setup here coming in for OXG's defense inside of the basement. No major variances in the operator department here, combining the projectile dealing capability between Jaeger along with Wamai. That's going to eat up most of the projectiles working their way in, excuse me. Foxe on the Goyo will have easy capability to try and delay as well because of the Goyo shields being exploded and obviously the incendiary effects that'll follow that, causing the delay in the late round once Soniqs start to press their way into the basement. But as terms of a extended roam coming out here from OXG, not a whole lot as of yet. Just that normal hold by the freezer stairs, and even then it's pretty well restrained as Yaga just sitting on the freezer stairs themselves, not trying to extend this out into cafeteria or security, as you'll sometimes often see defenders try to do here.
Yeah, this seems more just like toy with the Soniqs and back off. Just try and at least get them to focus on you for a bit, try and delay some time, but Oxygen are not trying to give up members early on here. This basement site is easily defendable, 75% defensive win rate on this site as of right now, which is pretty dang high when it comes down to it. Also, I just wanted to touch on the bans because we were talking about those earlier. Actually, Valkyrie, Wamai, and Mira are in a three-way tie for defensive bans right now in the NAL at 57%.
Sounds about right. We've been seeing them getting knocked out a lot. Wamai oftentimes a little bit too bothersome to deal with when it comes to his utility capability as well there. So teams are choosing to knock him out a lot. Not necessarily as much on this map from what I can recall from memory, but on some of the others in the pool, he's finding himself getting knocked out quite a bit right now. Heading back into the discussion about the current round, you can see on the ground there, Soniqs have managed to make quick work of the meeting room hatch, opening up into lower electrical here where Vertical is currently watching. So OXG have to keep a constant watch on the pressure coming from that hatch now, and of course the follow-up that's going to come from one of these three staircases. Which one, Oxygen don't entirely know just as of yet, but they're starting to get some intel as they hear some noise working its way down the freezer stairs.
Well, plenty of time still on the board for the Soniqs to get this freezer push to go off, but it doesn't seem like they're fully dedicated to it just yet. They do have the hatch as well as every other orifice of this site open. Truthfully, just waiting on the utility to go down and for the rest of this plan to come to a point. Well, my disc's now picking up stun grenades and everything else that's being hurtled at the site from the offense, but it's still just Oxygen sitting on their hands, waiting for noises to be made from the Soniqs. As we initially thought it was going to be this freezer take, but the freezer take nowhere to be found. Looks like it's now being transferred over to possibly a pillar construction take here from the Soniqs. It's going to be a last-ditch effort or just last-minute execute as we're still in a 5v5 situation.
Oxygen continuing to wait down this time and doing a fantastic job of it. I mean, no pressure whatsoever coming in at any point in this round so far from the Sonics. And now they're going to have to make a mad scramble for the site with only 20 seconds left. Super, checking the corner. I don't know if he saw the gun barrel of his opponent on the other side, but either way, Kino is going to start first. Vertical and Foxay follow it up. Everybody on Oxygen is fragging out as Laxing and Vertical. I think almost every single member of Oxygen gets a kill there as they have a flawless round to start things off.
So, Sonics, I mean, very clean opening, Blue. They were able to get all the hatches, no real damage dealt to them. They traded out some utility, but it wasn't anything insane. And then we get down to this last minute, and they just go for a Hail Mary on the back pillar. So what do you think is up? I mean, they really didn't run into any huge problems when it came to Freezer or Laundry. There was no one that was like hotly contesting them. Yes, there was angles being held from Oxygen, but there was no real forceful play for the Sonics, even though they tried to set up that side. It seems as though the Freezer wall being fully destructed how it was kind of scared them off in a sense.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like they wanted to use Freezer as the staging ground, so to speak, where they would take control of that and then execute the rest of their play from that point forward. But as you mentioned, the soft wall making it very difficult to actually get down that Freezer stairs position, and there never really was an established plan B, it seemed like. Not until those final 20 seconds anyway, when we saw the mad scramble down into construction to have 2 to 3 players to push that to act as a secondary angle there and try to push the hatch as well. Just overall, the setup from Oxygen countered the plan from Sonics, and they didn't really seem to have a good backup plan, even though they should have had the more than enough time in order to pull that off, considering there was zero resistance on the first floor hold there from OXG.
Yeah, really strong stuff for Oxygen to start us off, and it's going to continue as well, sitting with a very similar strat, but this time on the top floor. Still going to bring Goyo for those shields, so they have some defensive points to at least be able to stand on for some time and at least delay or probably get a frag. We'll have to see which one comes first, but that's how Oxygen are getting such strong positioning to these forward areas like they did with Freezer downstairs, just having these deployable shields around and able to play some positions that you're not really allowed to do without them.
Well, OXG possibly going to take some more direct contestation this time against the push from the Sonics. Last round able to thrive under a relatively passive play and just shut down the 5v5 execute that ended up happening in the final 20 seconds of the round. More than likely not going to have the luxury of that this time, since the site upstairs is far more exposed than their previous choice and is going to possibly force them into some more aggressive engagements earlier on in the round. You can see Sonics with a very heavy focus on trying to gather White Stairs control, but as long as that member of OXG remains in the way, Yaga, to be more specific, going to be problems of them trying to gain control of that. You've got ability to eat up utility here too, so Yaga's not going to have too much of an issue of nades getting thrown his way. You could see, I believe it was 2 magnets and possibly 1 ADS sitting on that stairwell, supporting him for the extended amount of time that he would be able to play out there. But now that all that's dealt with, Rexon will take out the barbed wire sitting just at the bottom of the staircase, and a little bit more actual pressure can be applied by the Sonics now instead of just poking out. And unfortunately, Kansan losing 25 HP.
This has been fantastic from Oxygen so far, stemming the tide of Sonics, especially from the shower area. I mean, Yaga playing in such a forward position, but it's safe, and that's the greatest thing about it, is Yaga's done this time and time again inside of the maps that I've been able to catch him playing. He's very, very good when it comes to playing the most forward safe position there is, whether it be, you know, pre-fire and things like that. He's just very strong when it comes to the information that comes to him at those points. Even like breaking up the breaching charge that Ash was putting down, he heard the other one go off and knew what the next step was for that person, went to pre-fire and try and kill him, but gets a breaching charge instead. It's just stuff like that that makes it difficult for the offense. But when you have openings like that, all of a sudden things get easier. Yeti gets one, but Kino fires back in Attic. All of a sudden things get restless. A minute left on the board for the Sonics to make something happen here, but they're not going to have a Maverick to do it anymore. Concussions in for Grixer, but neither of those are going to land. No early blast, but he knows someone's still here. It's Kino, and he's been down. Ready for the second angle. He claims Yaga's life as well. Does the third come through? It does! Oh, it's the train for Grixer. He's looking for the quad, but it's Foxay from White to take down one, but now he's in a 1v3 instead of a 1v4, and that case is going down.
Grixer getting so many detached 1v1s there, just thriving upon that. He's able to take down 3 different members of the OXG roster, really spinning this round back on its head. Foxay goes for a bit of a Hail Mary Nitro cell there, assuming that a player would be in a standard post-plant position, but doesn't happen to be the case. And now he'll lose a big chunk of health as he tries to retake top White control. So far, not able to justify the swing outside. If he goes too far left, there's a player deep in kids that'll pick him. If he takes the fight here, unfortunately, he's going to go down to Grixer, who gets a massive round. That's a quad overall on the inside, responding to the great round defense that was just won by OXG in the previous round. Grixer steps it up and brings a massive performance to the table here on round 2 to immediately answer back.
Huge round there for the Sonics, and it was so close going down to that last minute until we saw that beautiful play from Grixer inside of Attic. But it was more of a mistake from Oxygen than it was Grixer being amazing. Not taking anything away from Grixer. I mean, the guy obviously is an amazing player. We've seen what he's been doing throughout the entire season. But if you're going to give Grixer, you know, just individual 1v1s, that's more than likely going to happen every single time. I mean, like, especially in that kind of situation, like, there's multiple angles there that they can possibly play. They tried to assist with the Oxygen member Kino that died earlier inside of Attic. They wanted to get that refrag. It just didn't happen in the best way possible. When Kino died, they immediately tried to flood back into Attic to get the refrag, but they weren't able to actually match up on pace to where they actually peaked at the same time, and they just ended up dying. And that was really the round right there. After that point, I mean, it's Foxy doesn't have an opportunity. I mean, it's a 1v4, you know, so just very poor for Oxygen, and that's why they feel like they're going to go back upstairs and rerun this entire dang thing. They haven't changed up a single thing about the strategy.
10 seconds left.
Oxygen trying to make a run yet again here. Had a promising start. The only place where they made an error, obviously, as Stokes had been mentioning there, was that tad a bit of over-aggression into a player from the Sonics, but had a drone back down in meeting, and then the individual 1v1s going against Grixer there at the end that Stokes had just mentioned. So those are definitely issues they can very easily correct by just not playing as aggressively. So they can try this again, and hopefully they'll come out on top this time if the same results are going to be thrown at them from the Sonics. Taking a look at the Sonics opening gambit in the meantime, it's looking pretty similar to the last round as well, with some emphasis on both big and small tower control. You will notice, though, Yaga, a much more extended position out from White this time, trying to possibly get a kill earlier on and then rely upon the safety of the 5v4 to fall back and play a turtle setup deeper in the site.
Well, I mean, if they're going to play the Gambit, I think I'm going to play the London system. That's what I'm feeling like. So, as long as we're talking about chess topics. Anyways. Oxygen, still just waiting. I mean, like, the early round here so far from the Sonics in both of these rounds has just been very paced information game. They don't want to try and give up too much. They know that Oxygen wants to play aggressive and try and catch them off guard, and they've done a bang-up job of keeping them from doing that. Now, when it comes to this round in particular, I think the Sonics are going to just stick to the game plan. It's starting to work already. It's only round 3 right now, and to have such a big crack show like what was shown in the last round, I mean, if Oxygen can't fix that, then there's going to be a lot of problems that they're going to run into. The Sonics still simply grabbing some information and working their way around the map. We do have an update on Super situation and what's going on with his hard breach now, though. As we get upstairs, he's actually on big window, trying to get the wall open as of the moment, but there's mute jammers on that, so seems like they won't be able to handle that just yet.
Vert possibly still undiscovered in the freezer stair position as well, so he has some potential to make play inside of the late round, assuming he remains obscured for the next 20 to 30 seconds here while the Sonics complete their droning and, of course, actually commit to the push inside. Yeti with a couple frag grenades to chuck out there and some big damage, too. Absolutely destroys Kino's health pool as he falls back there. I believe it may have detonated a Goyo shield and nearly killed him from that as well, as he takes even more on the way back. Foxy nearly losing a battle as well, now down at sub 25. So overall, OXG, a lot of problems controlling the attic as two separate players are pushed from that position, and it's opened up for the Sonics to potentially take the site with.
Well, very minimal time now for anything to happen for this offense, but finally we get some action. Kansan with the first frag, and that means the rest are soon to pour in. Possible window play for the Sonics on dorms, with 2 currently on rappel, but it seems like they want to go for the attic play instead. 2 hop inside, it's Foxy on point. He's not going to be able to win out the fight, and now the window swing secure. Super still gets him anyways. Kino not ready for it, and now we're back to a very similar situation that we were just faced with, but different person. Laxing instead of the 1v4 now. No nitro cell, but could possibly have an opportunity here for a frag. Although, is going to get backed off.
No, sorry, go ahead. Grixer just going to be able to shut that one down right there. Taking out Laxing and putting him once again as the point I was trying to make, basically saying that Laxing really in that same unfortunate repeat stereo that we saw the last player from OXG be in the previous round as well, where there's really just no safe way to peek that doorway there. The second he goes through it, 3 different people are going to try to spray at him. It is a lost cause no matter which way you try to swing it. So Sonics contain the site upstairs, take control yet again, and force Oxygen back down to the depths of the basement, as we are going to get a... okay, never mind. We're not going to get a timeout here.
Okay, well, the Sonics feeling good coming into this next round. Apparently, I guess it's kind of a question now. Are they feeling good?
They
Are they
weren't,
not feeling
and then
good?
they were. So who knows?
We don't really know, but I guess we're going to figure it out pretty soon as Oxygen have unlocked the basement, so they're immediately going to go back there. As we were talking about earlier, this site right here is seldom lost by the defense. As of, well, the earlier statistics, 75% defensive win rate when it comes to the site, which that's just absurd when it comes to Rainbow. Even for Rainbow standards, like you're usually in like the 60s, you know what I mean?
That might have been the reason why the pause needed to be called there from the Sonics. Obviously, this is the site that Oxygen have already won back in round number 1, and it was a very definitive win, too, with Sonics just not really able to accomplish anything at all inside of the basement itself, just trying to force and execute with about 20 seconds left, and it getting shut down very easily by the OXG roster. So hopefully things are going to step up a little bit more this time for the Sonics, whether that means getting earlier control, trying to play more aggressively to disallow Oxygen to establish solid positions to fend off a basement attack, or through some other method that we have yet to see from the Sonics. Let's find out exactly what they're going to be doing as the round is now begun.
I mean, this has been as action-packed as we thought it was going to be. Granted, it's very late round, but that's more or less just the respect of both of these teams not wanting to lose, to be completely honest with you. They do not want to give up anything when it comes down to it, but the Sonics just doing that much better.
Nice.
And in comes the harsh clear for Freezer Stairs. They knew multiple Oxygen members were playing in that area. That's the third time, John, that we've seen someone in that exact position for Oxygen, and Sonics cleared out with flying colors.
Grixer once again leading the charge here as he has been for the past couple of days. A massive scoreline already for Grixer within this map so far here at 7-0-1. Every single other teammate on the Sonics only has 1 kill right now, so a very top-heavy leaderboard. That is a bit of a dangerous situation should Grixer be the first player to go down, but we've already seen at least one round the other members of the Sonics able to frag out, especially with appropriate entries being claimed before they actually execute. So not a massive concern at this point in time, but definitely something to pay attention to if it remains a theme for the rest of this match. Sonic's already with that 1 kill, though, definitely not going to be rushing themselves here, especially considering there's a 2-man hold inside of Tower, and they failed to account, I believe, for the player up in T2. Foxeye gets away with 1 for free, trades out onto Yeti, but the question is, how does he play it from here? Super just found another exchange there, eliminating Laxing, and just like that, I should say, the Sonics are now back in control.
Well, this is a double-edged sword right now for Oxygen because the Sonics are starting to pressure onto the site and Foxay is off of site. So yes, he does have the roam and a potential flank here in a little while, but if that doesn't go well and they actually get this execute off, then what is it worth? Let's see what he can possibly do here. They've heard that Nitro Sun more than likely across the map. He rushes across Adam, then immediately goes back to Big Tower. Wants to try and find a way safely out of here. We'll see if he's able to do so, but he's actually done very well at delaying this timer. Yeah. Look at this. The Sonics completely distracted as they've now confronted themselves with Big Tower.
They're hoping they can find a quick elimination on the Foxay here and then dive onto the site in a 4v2 where they wouldn't have to worry too much about particular clears, but that's going to be a bad call there because they end up calling it off, as you can see. Couple other players moving away from that second floor assault and quickly getting into position to move into the basement as they're once again going to be faced with that issue of only having 30 to 20 seconds here to fully move on to the site. So they'll be limited in a similar fashion to how they were back on round number 1. The difference is they've got a 4v3 advantage. Where is Foxay going to come in all this, though? Is he still upstairs? Kino and Foxay immediately making impact here. Vertical with the lineup for 2. Can only translate for 1, but Kino comes in on the assist and Oxygen secure their 4th.
Oh, that is so rough for the Sonics. They had everything going for them, but the roam works out for Foxay, able to get the Sonics distracted just long enough to make the execute way too difficult for them, and he got a frag when it came down to it as well. Some great stuff from them overall for that defense. So, meeting hall now for the OXG squad, and it's been looking pretty strong overall. Foxay continuing to rotate through these different operators. We've been seeing him on Goyo. I think we saw him on Womai there for a little bit as well. Now Echo. I mean, this guy is playing everything and the Legion on top of that. So it really feels as though Oxygen are still putting the older players inside of this team in a position to where they can play truly anything under the sun and try and find some success with it.
Legion going to be an interesting pick here for Foxay. For anybody who has not seen him played in pro player, hasn't seen him recently, that's because he got a pretty big nerf. I think it was over a year ago now that he was hit with that, and immediately dropped him for most teams' pick rates pretty much instantaneously. But we've been seeing him poke back in every now and again. he's still got pretty good roaming capabilities, especially if you're within distance to still play off of the audio cues from his goo mines. So that on top of him getting the 1.5 times sight, seemingly making his gun that much better, I think has activated him for a couple of players once again, as well as Foxy is going to be picking him up here today.
Yeah, Legion, an operator that has went through some changes, like you were talking about in history, and I think that the one thing about his kit that has always been the biggest deal is that he really is just a nuisance, and he's really good at being that. Exactly. I mean, like, whenever you step on one of those goon mines, it's just such a long-term effect, and it does so many different things to where you don't have as the full control of your kit like you want, that you either have to go through the animation or it's going to put you into a very bad state. So we'll see if anybody possibly gets caught up in that web. But as of now, we're out into the field. 30 seconds off the board. Soniqs out and about. Let's see what they can do with this drone game. As we've been talking about for most of this offense, it's been quite slow, all except for round 4, where we saw Grixer with a nice frag early inside of the 2-minute mark. But doesn't seem like they'll have the opportunity here just yet. Possible chance with Vertical, though, upstairs inside of Trophy. He peers back and forth. He knows he's got some contacts inside of Master, but he's not going to get too forward with it. Much rather wine and dine and take his time, if you know what I mean. Some Nitro cells are going to go down as well for the defense, but all of this just not hitting its mark.
Vertical trying to still look for any capabilities to engage aggressively against his opponents while he continues to hold upstairs inside of Kids, but will play it carefully, not so aggressively as to potentially give his life away to his opponents here, as they still are looking to bait out time more than player count, more than anything here. That's the important factor of this upstairs hold. They're not the crew that's necessarily meant to destroy the entire attacking roster. They're simply here to waste time and, more importantly, try to escape to the actual site hold while still staying alive, or at least get a 1-for-1 in the process here. Vertical and Foxy done a great job of delaying over half the round time, now gone and away, but they haven't felt the full brunt of this pressure from the Soniqs roster yet, which will more than likely push them down the hatch to Vertical's right side there. You can see it. Grixer and I believe Rexon trying to work their way in. Rexon with a great catch as well. Fends off the flank from Laxing. Kino and Yaga now Vertical go down as suddenly the Soniqs just take full lower site control. They don't even care for the upstairs roam game as they've completely cleared out the anchors. And now all that's remaining is Foxy hiding in Kids here has to somehow pull back a 1v5.
You gotta feel so bad for him. He does get Grixer, but it's an immediate refrag from Rexon. You know, being able to kill Grixer is one thing. That's a huge blow to the Soniqs, but not inside of a 1v5. That's going to be a little too difficult for Oxygen to try and pull back from. But now we're on to round 6, where the Oxygen members will have a chance to equalize here after that poor round. These rounds that Oxygen are losing are just simply steamrolls in the frag department. The Soniqs are able to just waltz onto site, kill practically everybody, and slap a bomb piece down. So, I mean, that's 3 plants, and that's all of their rounds.
Some solid results coming out for the Soniqs in general. Yeti being the big player for me in the midst of that round. We didn't get to see exactly how the site take transpired since it happened kind of suddenly, but from what we could see on the kill feed there, Yeti picking up the 2 big frags downstairs that opened up the possibility for the rest of their team to flood in and really make the 2 players on upstairs row a bit of a moot point getting into that position on the round there, just considering they were so outnumbered and overwhelmed that their positions kind of came back to bite them because they still had the pressure from other members of the Soniqs coming in from the area that we're looking at now by Billiards, as well as the outer larger dorms room just next to Kids there too. So just way too many problems being built up way too quick off of those entries from Yeti. Good stuff from him to really seal the deal for the Soniqs inside of that 5th round. And now they've got a chance to get a really solid half going here at 4-2. They've already won this site 2 times in a row as well. So OXG not looking great going into the final round of the half.
No, not at all. And as you were saying, the executes on this site in particular have just been so well done from the Soniqs. It's never looked like they were not in control when it came to this area. And it's mostly through this attic push, which Oxygen still haven't had an answer for. The first time we saw it with Yeti, and then immediately after that we saw it with Grixer. I mean, for Oxygen, as of right now, this should more than likely be the priority, and that's why Foxy is going to be all the way over here inside of Kitchen Hallway, playing near Meeting. So we'll see if he can possibly handle Big Tower. He sees that they're already in up top, but oh no, he doesn't toss the Nitro Cell up to T3, goes to T2 because he hears the repel swing in, and the audio unfortunately echoes towards him, so he's not going to get the right call on that, and that's going to be a burnt Nitro.
close shave either way, as Stokes mentioned, just a little bit too low thrown there as players were just hopping in, so unable to make the impact on T2 where the majority of the detonation actually went off. Didn't really bleed up to T3 there. Can's in a bit of a panicked moment, I think, as he spots a player over by top stairs and has to quickly fall away from that position. That or he just accidentally fell. Either way, not a very massive consequence. In the meanwhile, we're also seeing Yeti quickly open up the attic wall here. He'll be alone in doing it, but the good news is there's no real active pressure against him from the OXG roster. He'll only have to worry about that when he starts pressing down the hallway itself. So he'll be secure, and in fact, I'll correct myself. He's not alone. He does have a player assisting him from up in T3 there, should the need arise.
Oh, patience, still the name of the game for the Sonics, and it's paying off for him. No real step forward just yet, but they've reached the point in which they were at the last time, working on the attic, up inside a trophy, cleared Laxing off of the Goyo shield inside of here, and starting to work their way onto site. Just need to get rid of some of this utility, but they also need to worry about a potential flank as one of these Oxygen members currently on the laundry stairs. It's going to be Foxay from earlier on. It seems like there's another Oxygen member down low as well. Off the air jab, Kansan with the flank watch locks it up. Oxygen not going to get away with that one.
Perfect setup from Kansan. Hook, line, and sinker there for Foxay. Nothing he can do about that as he just falls victim to the air jab and the utility that comes along with their Laxing. After we do see the walk-in wall get detonated, tries to throw a follow-up nitro, but unfortunately not going to sing too loud. There's pretty much 0 damage done from it. Yaga still fending off the attic pressure too. A lot of problems for OXG would start with a failed defense of this attic hold here. So this is a very, very pivotal moment. You can tell Oxygen have already adjusted here, trying to play it passively, bait into angles where they know they can win, but it only goes 1 for 1. Still a second player around the corner, though, and Grixer knows it, hiding behind this hard panel here as Kino has it reinforced, a capability for a quick swing in with the SMG-11 to try to take out an opponent here. Seems to have had drone there, too, but maybe not as he goes down. None the wiser to Kino's position. Vertical also striking true. Rex will be able to trade on the Laxing, but Kino again finding the impact, leaving it all onto Rex, and with only 10 seconds left as well, it's a desperate play to try to get back the diffuser. Just not going to work out as Kino shuts it down with a shotty to finally give Oxygen a 3rd round at the end of the half.
Much better round there from Oxygen, and it's simply because they just played more patient. When those kills came through for the Sonics, Oxygen knew that they didn't have the full control in which they needed to plant. Plenty of bodies still on the actual site, able to just hold crosses and force Sonics to come to them. So well played when it came down to the last minute. Otherwise, it was simply Sonics doing what they had done every single time on dorms. Working the attic area, working that master area, and trying to get those picks. The difference in between these two rounds is simply put that Oxygen didn't get overly aggressive and die a bunch. That's really it. I mean, the Oxygen simply had the man count at that time to actually take it to the Sonics inside of those gunfights.
Played to their trades, especially inside of attic where they had multiple issues, especially on the first defense, giving those 1v1s to Grixer so consistently, allowing him to just carve his way through the defensive setup there. So great adjustment from OXG to really rein in their defense on that site and get a solid 3rd round going before the half concludes. But that does now take us into the second half where OXG are on attack. Only 3 rounds coming off their defensive side. Couldn't be closer here, folks, as now the Sonics will look to shut things down from the defense, and we'll see if they're going to be able to do just that. A little bit of a different flair being brought to the table here. Very similar operator lineup to what we saw from OXG. The biggest change being that we're going to have the Aruni instead of Goyo here, being played by Grixer.
You know, instead of E-Box now, whenever Aruni's brought for E-Box, can we call it Laser Cube?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Please. Really appreciate it. I took some influence from, like, you know, Deadmau5 because of the big cube, so I figured, you know, lasers.
It's more of a rectangle, but
I mean, like, hey,
rectangular prism. Excuse me. I'll be appropriate since it's a 3D shape.
Yeah, know your geometry. All right. Listen, I got a C in that class. All right. And I got a C because of my final, dude. I had a D up until the end. Like, you know, school and video games never really ever mixed well. So
right, I failed physics 101 twice, so I'm no better.
I think I can trump that. Because of the final. You know that class you have to take for college at the very beginning to teach you to study and stuff like that?
Yeah.
No one else in my group for our final helped me with my project. I did all of it, and my teacher still failed me.
Heck yeah, love that.
Oh, dude, gotta love college professors, right? Oh man, they're great.
College in general.
Oh.
But moving on from higher education,
okay,
since neither of us have degrees. Remember, we're the idiots, not you if you got one.
Yeah, you guys are the ones getting degrees. We're the ones sitting here and commentating a video game.
But either way, Oxygen very quickly dealing with the hatch work that had been reinforced by the Sonics. I believe Laundry, as well as the meeting room hatch, already being dealt with and opening up more play possibilities. X-Kairos also going to go, I believe, onto the sidewall here on the inside of Electrical. Indeed, that'll be the case. A 4-pellet breach, to be specific there, opening up some view into the hallway leading into construction here. We're also going to see pressure from OXG being deployed onto the back stairs themselves. Very light for now. Definitely focusing in a big way on dealing with what Stokes is going to call the laser cube down here because there's so much Aruni resistance, especially on the main door leading into the site. But you've also got 2 to 3 other players on one of the 2 walls leading to the outside too. So this X-Cairo is a bit of a double-edged sword here as Oxygen have to deal with multiple angles when they drop in. Frag's actually going to do massive damage to Rexon as well here as he gets unfortunately caught by that, changing position over to Harry Potter.
Such a risky play right now for Rexon, and it's not going to work out for him either. Vertical gets one, but now it's the flood from Oxygen. They get another, but Grixer fights back with a double kill of his own. Now trying to vie for pillar control, but Kansan first to strike inside of there as well. The Sonics are looking damn good coming into these last 35 seconds. They down Laxon inside of Freezer. It's just Yogg as he works his way into construction. Doesn't have case control either. That's down inside of the new laser cube, folks. And he'll have to work his way in here. One of those gates on as well, so he won't have access to that unless he wants to use one of those breaching rounds. But that's not even going to matter. Grixer, Kansan, you guys are looking so solid right now. Sonics claim round 7.
Kansan with the swing and peek out there to finish things off, and that's a solid shutdown coming in from the Sonics. Grixer, man, this man cannot be moved, it seems. He's going to be a major problem from OXG, assuming the individual performance is consistent here. He's holding the frontline angle, the very first position that OXG were trying to take inside of the basement, and allowing him to pick up those 2 kills completely untraded for the most part, as far as I can tell as well. Really a big stunt in the overall progression that Oxygen was looking to make in the round. They have to try and find some way around that, as it's definitely going to be a consistent factor. Now that we move to the other sites, it's going to be a kids defense next here for the Sonics, rebounding off of a successful first round.
Solid stuff there for the Sonics. You know, I wish that my college professor was as good as they are at this game, let me tell you. But I don't think that's going to happen. Either way, for the Sonics, they're going to be headed upstairs. Now, they're going to be sticking with the Aruni like we saw down low, and it actually did have quite the impact on Oxygen. I mean, they were able to get open quite a few things when it came down to it, but the pressure never mounted to a point where Sonics couldn't handle it. They still had control of Pillar for most of that time. I mean, it really just came down to the wire when eventually it was lost, but even then, it wasn't technically speaking lost. I mean, they were still contesting the area. They just didn't have anybody there, and that's where everything ended up going down for the last 2 members of Oxygen anyways. So as of right now, I don't think that there's truly anything you can knock the Sonics on. These defenses are looking really solid, able to delay Oxygen throughout the entirety of the action phase, and let's see if they can do it again.
Oxygen, a bit of a bumpy road being set up for them at the beginning of their attacking side here, but time to see if they can potentially reverse their fate. They'll be attacking, excuse me, voice is a little mumbled today, but either way, be attacking the upstairs site. We can already see Grixer setting up the Surya gates at a couple pivotal positions, the rotate in from the bedroom connector, as well as the big window, trying to prevent immediate access coming in there for OXG. Speaking of which, we've got quite a few members of the Oxygen roster already working their way into the building and clearing out areas close to Small Tower, leading up to where we've got the extended room game deployed by Yeti, more than likely 1 to 2 other members of the Sonics roster as well here. Yeti will just deny the drone real quick, as we'll see that work its way in, and we'll wait for the next engagement.
It's been a big thing that we've been seeing from a lot of Yana players recently as well, is using her to get rid of those laser gates. And it's such a smart idea. I mean, you know, an infinite utility that's able to disable those laser gates for, I believe, 30 seconds. That's just such a long period of time. Granted, obviously they're indestructible, but what can you possibly do about that? At least now you have access to the room that you didn't necessarily have the chance to get into before. Yeti's going to be able to reset that now, though, so might have to go for that once again if they do want to clear out down low, but the Oxygen really hasn't shown too much of this hand just yet. Still simply setting up on the Small Tower side of things and giving up some bodies as well, as Rexon simply just standing inside of Z and takes down 1 in Shower Hall.
important air jab going down there as well. Denies the additional pressure that could have potentially come in from Grixer, another one of the players in the roam game here, and will allow more unrestricted access to the white stairs push here for the members of OXG that are able to work their way into it. Laxing with a great find there takes out Rex, and Grixer getting hit pretty heavily too upon trying to get aggressive by the back stairs here. Super with the first response to even us back out into a 3v3 there as he finds an important pick against Kino, still maintaining control of the kids' dorms, and really, as far as I can tell, the only one actually in the site resisting the push at this point. So a lot of pressure on him until we see the rest of the team able to successfully rotate back up. Yeah, these drones are going to realize that fact sooner rather than later, too. So the pressure, the longer it takes for these rotates to work their way back, the more pressure is going to build on a super here. There we go. Vertical, wrapping in, taking him out. Here comes the wrap now for the other two Soniqs players as Yeti and Grixer make their way back up. They also don't realize that it's really only 1 to 2 players in the site right now. This is a little bit chaotic as we get into the post plant. There's still someone from OXG roaming around downstairs, about to stab Yeti in the back if he doesn't pay attention to it. There you go. Foxay up the stairs, knocking out Yeti, taking him down, and he gets the last one against Grixer as well. A little chaotic there as the roam game from Soniqs gets a bit ahead of itself, leaving Super exposed, and overall allowing Oxygen right into the upstairs site.
I don't think they fully thought that one out. That was not the best thing. Oh no, that's just, oh, they're bullying him, John. That's not, you know, that's fine. But anyways, that was a really good play there from Oxygen to be able to identify Soniqs, well, at least Super, being alone inside of sight. That's going to happen no matter who it is. I mean, obviously we're memeing because it's Super. But, I mean, if it's Smoke alone on site and that roam game is happening in that way, Oxygen have a free route into sight. They simply just walked up white, waltzed in, and vertical shot him. That was it. There was nothing more to it. It was very, very straightforward. So, I mean, to get to that point, obviously there were some exchanges earlier on. And I really liked what Soniqs was doing with the roam game, but at a certain point in time, when you lose enough members to make it to where there's a singular man on site, you should not be roaming any longer, at least with that amount of people. Somebody needs to go back to site and assist their teammate to keep things locked down. Otherwise, that's going to happen 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, there was a valid reason for Soniqs to delay their overall rotation back upstairs, and I think that's just because they didn't know exactly what was going on with OXG's positioning on the first floor. Obviously, they didn't want to rotate up freezer stairs or laundry stairs, trying to transition back up to the second floor and immediately run face first into a member of OXG upon trying to do that. So that's probably part of the reason why it took so long for them to work their way back up there. Obviously, default cams are gone at that point. You don't have Valkyrie to play off of, and overall, nothing like a Maestro or anything like that. So overall, info is probably at a very minimal state for the Soniqs. They're making that rotation from the basement back upstairs difficult, even though they absolutely had to get it done, and they paid the consequence for not doing it so quickly.
Well, they'll have an opportunity to reconcile this as for round 9, we're back inside of dorms. 4-4 right now in between these two, and it seems that we do indeed have a match on our hands. I was getting scared there just for a moment when the Soniqs are getting plant after plant after plant, but I mean, we're still here, and Oxygen is still fighting. Both of these teams have been so impressive throughout this season as well, and I think that that's something to notate. I mean, Oxygen have been impressive for quite some time with their particular playstyle, and a peculiar one at that, but with this new roster, they just look refreshed and reformed and ready to play this game once again. It seems like some of the most exciting Oxygen plays that we've seen in quite some time. But as for the Soniqs, I think that this has been the most confidence I've had in this roster since its inception. I mean, I really, really liked, you know, like Iconic, Easily, and our European boys. But this roster right here just seems to mesh so much better.
Not to mention the crazy run that Grixer has been on here over the last 2 to 3 matches now. Like I mentioned in the pregame, just going to bring it up again as we've probably gotten a couple new viewers since then. This guy had a 2.0 rating in the last match. That is, for the most part, unheard of. And so incredibly promising stat line coming out from Grixer there, and I'm not gonna lie, he probably is getting close to something similar to that if the scoreline stays as competitive as it is right now by the time we get to the end of the game. This man's been on fire and is looking to continue that performance here today. We're currently 12-2-5 inside of this match. Talking more about the specifics of round number 9 here, though, we are once again seeing Oxygen work their way in for a relatively quick first floor clear, especially on the small tower side of the map. You can tell a lot of emphasis going on to the big window just above the small tower clear as well here is possibly Oxygen looking to speed up the overall pacing of this attack, maybe not trying to deal with the first floor roam game that's extended over towards big tower and some of the other parts of the map here.
We'll see if that'll cause any delay to Oxygen, but as of right now, it seems to be absolutely none. No way you can stop this train, as Oxygen are working on completely different parts of the map as to what Sonic's thought was going to go on. It's currently Master as well as Big Window, so no presence over towards Attic or even Kitchen for the time being. Do have some drones over here now, though, and a possible rotation in to deal with Yeti, but we'll see if they even spot him first. He's able to get rid of one drone, and seems like he's just going to bide his time down low for a possible flank later on. For Oxygen, they're setting up for the execute, currently with Kino inside of Master, as well as one in tow inside of Trophy, setting up over on the Big Window as well. Tagged up onto Kino now, and that's where the case control is as well, so we're looking to him to plant inside of this last minute.
Going to line up a little bit of an angle for himself to play off of there. Should we see additional pressure work its way out? A great spot from him to just delete Kansan's head. Flaxing gets a similar pickup against Rex in here, and that all of a sudden throws the round up in the air. Soniqs down a player here, but Grix are still in the midst of Attic, potentially causing issues. That's not to mention Yeti's position just below the Big Window, too. It does look like OXG are very well aware of that, though, so they are not going to go directly into that, potentially giving a kill away to Yeti. They'll have to directly challenge him from the inside of security if they'll go for him. But no, he's ready for the challenge, heads out, gets one before getting traded out, and ultimately it will leave Super alone. In the same position, too, depths of the kids' dorms here, going to try to sneak himself out, finds the pickup, tries to deny the plant, and comes so close to doing it, relaxing just that much quicker on the trigger. He takes out Super instead, and OXG take the round.
Great attempt there by Super, but the Overwatch just too strong from OXG. And that's just a strong round from them as well. They didn't even take Attic control there, and that's the biggest part of that round for me, is when you go for a plant inside of games, it's extremely difficult to try and pull that off when you don't have that Attic control, because the cross is just so strong there. But we saw Kino get rid of that with that nice frag from inside of the Master Closet. Simply, and then after that, Oxygen simply held down the Big Window, and it was just overall done from that moment in time. I mean, the Sonics didn't necessarily have a chance to try and battle back into that one just because of how harsh those crosses are. I'm honestly surprised by both of these teams on their offenses on how slow moving they've been. I mean, both of them are really taking their time, trying to figure out what the enemy is doing, looking into this defensive setup. I mean, this is just very well thought out, and I'm not trying to take anything away from either one of these teams, but these are the last two teams that I thought were going to do that. So, like, Oxygen's usually extremely quick and pacing.
Yeah.
They really want to get in people's faces. The Sonics, I mean, throughout this season so far, they've been quite aggressive, if I do say so myself. So, to have them both waiting down to what seems to be the vitality time, those last 15 seconds, it's just kind of a weird thing to see them doing it. I mean, it's awesome. I've been loving this strategy. It's just weird to see these two names attached to it.
Well, either way, we're going to move ourselves into round number 10 here. The Sonics bringing a massive increase to their performance so far in this season. It's continued into this match. OXG, on the other hand, definitely not taking the loss they took yesterday very lightly as they come back storming with a new look, it seems, here on trying to take down the Sonics and, more importantly, reaffirm their current control over the league for the most part that they've had going up until yesterday's very unfortunate defeat. Oxygen, in the meantime, taking some very quick control and actually might be pushing relatively aggressively into Freezer here. Just to take out the default, though, it seems, as Yaga does not want to push the advantage he has for himself any further to potentially give himself away here and give Sonics the opening 5v4 advantage yet again.
Well, Oxygen changing some things up inside of the lineup. We now have Vertical on one of the most explosive operators for the offense. It's going to be the Ying with her Candelas coming into play, so we'll see if anything gets blinded by the light when it comes down to that last minute, because I highly doubt we're going to be moving any quicker than that. They want to make sure that the Sonics do not have an opportunity to slow them down from reaching map point. This is the Oxygen's chance to gain quite the lead on the Sonics going into what could be possibly our last round. Still getting rid of just most of the utility. Got the hatches open now, trying to get some sort of view into Rexon's location over near the boiler area, but that's not coming easy to them.
Trying to burn out the gates, but unfortunately, we're still going to see the Magnets continue to cause problems as well. The Surya Gates, the first one going out to Pillar at least being dealt with. We are going to see a couple of the X-Kairos work their way in, just trying to get a little bit of a view going out. That's a nice find from Foxe there, as they're finally able to work one of their nades past the gates and onto one of the players from the Sonics. Is probably the most important member of the Sonics in this situation, going down too. Grixer getting knocked out. That's their frag leader by a massive margin right now. Missing him, we'll have to see what else the Sonics are going to be able to take care of in this final minute. Thankfully still has a solid hold, and more importantly, Oxygen have not successfully pierced the veil on any of the 3 staircases, just as of yet, but that may be changing now with a second entry coming in from Kino against Rexon.
Oh, and it seems as though it'll be all hands on deck. The Candelas go off and Oxygen flood in, but are they wary of the man at Pillars? Vertical finally turns around. He claims Yeti's life, and he's going to roll the Candela underneath the laser gate. Gets rid of the ADSs as they continue this bombardment of the site, but Kansan and Super still both alive and with a chance here, but Kansan's been taken down. It's all down to the team captain himself, but I can't even finish my phrase before he dies. Oxygen able to claim round 10 off of a fantastic Ying execute.
OXG finding revenge from their unsuccessful attack here earlier on inside of the half, and more importantly, pushing themselves that much further onto indeed the match point coming up right here. The Sonics, initially a great start to this half, but unable to translate it as we moved into the later rounds. Oxygen quickly have retaken control, over this matchup. Now we're going to see them try to seal the deal with 2 chances to do so before the Sonics come back again and trigger us into OT. OXG are pretty much expecting them to go right back to basement, and they're correct about that assumption here, so the Ying will be immediately repicked by Vertical. I'd actually be surprised if we see the 6 pick off of it, but let's take a look here.
The thing is that there's really nothing the Sonics can do against it. Like, I understand why they're getting rid of it, because, you know, Ying is one of those things where you just pull her out every once in a while,
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of like, like the one-trick pony thing. Like, you just use it once and then you put it back in your pocket, and that's it, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's like show and tell. Like, look at my shiny thing. Okay, that's it. I have to put it away now.
Exactly. It's like any anime ever where they just like, oh, and the ace in my sleeve, ha! Just like pull. Yeah, that's Ying. That's her. Like, you do it once, and you're like, okay, that was the big flashy thing, and they don't do that anymore. So they're gonna pull Jackal out instead, which. I think
that's actually a smart pick, considering that they were like fidgeting over the E-box hatch for a good like 30-40 seconds there, and there's definitely gonna be some footsteps in that spot on the map. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But the other thing is, like, I feel like Jackal comes into play quite often when it comes to roam game. So if the Sonics have a roam game, great, and it looks like they're going to do that. So it looks like this 6 pick is just this is so perfect right now. It's
600
insane.
IQ read.
Yeah, right. But I'm still with your previous call. I think that the Ying here, like, you really can't do anything to it. They cleared all the magnets. She can roll them underneath the Surya gates. There's no real way to get around her, but you can't knock him for bringing Jackal. I mean, this guy is just annoying. Like, when you bring Jackal, you always have an opportunity, especially with that info. And Yogg's poor day is just going to get even worse. 1, 2, and 9. He's not going to join the 007s, but he will at least be working at Olive Garden.
Yogg, assuming that was a relatively clear room there as he worked his way down, the drone that was working his way in spots the enemy at the last second, and it didn't seem like he was ready for the fight. So he'll go down to that one after clearing it out in previous rounds and finding no one there. A bit more aggression working its way in this time. So this is where we'll hopefully see some more use come out of the Jackal here from Vertical, like Stokes have been talking about, trying to deal with the roam game if there was any, but that's the problem. We've seen it push itself back pretty heavily. If there was any players exposed out a few seconds ago, they more than likely started or have already rotated their way back down to the basement. So limited use for Vertical from this point forward. Like I said, more than likely going to be used to try and figure out the positions of the players hiding around E-box to hopefully eliminate them a little bit quicker, but no more roam game to deal with.
Yeah, and that's the troublesome thing about Jackal is you might have just every foot inside of the entire game, but you don't know truthfully who you're tracking until you track them. So it might be Smoke sitting inside of a closet or, you know, something like that, and it just gets real difficult at that point.
Can't you technically be like 8 billion IQ and recognize the foot patterns because there's like 4 or 5 different ones?
There is, but they're off of the weight of the operator from armor, if you didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a different foot per armor class, and all of a sudden things start to pop off, but it's not for the offense, it's for the defense this time. The Sonics take it even further. Vertical and Laxing, the only 2 that remain. That Jackal pick just not enough to get them onto site. They do still have some smokes to be able to mess with the line of sight, but I don't think that's going to get them too far. We do have a nice pick here from Vert. Is he starting to take some people out inside of Freezer? But another issue all of a sudden rears its ugly head. There's a lot of bulletproof materials laying around on the ground, and they just so happen to be called Banshees that aren't going to allow him to move forward without a lot of noise and to do it very slowly. Oh no, not like this. Down to the 1v2, but 30 seconds remain. And if there's one man you want in a clutch position to win you the map, it's got to be Laxing.
Super limited crossfire there for OXG's 2 remaining players to play off of, but thankfully their patience, it pays off in a huge dividend. Soniqs try to push out, try to get more aggressive, and more importantly, try to play for info there and end up giving themselves away 2 times to the members of OXG. Thankfully, that'll end up mattering for naught, as Kansan is still able to shut down Laxing, avoiding the end of the game, and more importantly, putting the Soniqs within just 1 round's reach of OT versus their current opponents.
All right, well, as you said, 1 round away. The Soniqs have an opportunity here. Now, the real question is, where are we going? Because so far, these defenses, they've looked abysmal. And I want the Soniqs to be doing better here, but they can't just be doing good on a singular site. And that site so far has only been basement. Now, they're going to take it back to dorms, which they haven't won just yet. They've had 2 opportunities, and both of them went sideways. Let's see how Oxygen want to deal with this. Both of the previous offenses were through not only Master and Trophy, but as well as that big window. So the Soniqs should have an inkling of what's going on here. We could possibly see some adjustments, though, coming in, as Foxay going away from the Maverick because they really haven't utilized it that much on this particular offense, and going over to Nook, an operator that we never see.
Now, the Nook selection is going to be pretty interesting, specifically because we're moving away from Maverick, and specifically because we're going on to the site where you most notably see Maverick get used to clear out those attic positions. Now, it is possible, of course, the X-Kairos can still get the job done, and looking at the defenders, there's nothing they can do to stop the X-Kairos, not immediately anyway here, assuming they reinforce both walls, which they're going to do. So this swap-off isn't going to immediately remove their capability to take attic. Quite the contrary. In fact, Kino should have no problem opening that up to a small degree, and possibly having extra to deal with the walk-in as well here. So we'll see what Fox is able to work for himself here. Kind of been on fire so far in this game, competing with some of the best on his team right now. So I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to pull off on the Nook.
Yeah, I feel like Yaga and Foxay switched accounts. I don't really know what happened. I mean, Yaga earlier in the season was playing so well, and right now he just can't find his footing. But we all have those days. And oh man, there is no way that Foxay changes his name to Foxay 007. This guy's playing Nook, and not only that, but he's double punching and sneaking in the basement. This guy is sneaking in the basement. All he needs to now is to put on like a suit and try to pretend to be a bartender or something. Like, wait, this is Oregon, right? Maybe he just needs to start, like, he needs to put on like a biker jacket or something. Like, yeah.
Just sneaking his way in. We need like some sound effects for this, man. I feel like we need the background soundtrack right now.
Oh, I'm sure that the Face It editors will do us justice if this goes well.
We need some like GoldenEye music right now or something, and throw us back a little bit here.
Oh man. Oh, now all I want is to play N64 GoldenEye with you and the other commentators. We need to get that going, Kicks. You heard me. You heard me. Anyways, we'll talk about that later on. We got some important business to attend to, and it's not just the Nook in the basement, but it's actually all the scary stuff going on inside of the attic. And it's not actually the attic, it's inside of Master. That was a big, elaborate lie to make it sound cool. Master currently an objective for Oxygen, but it's not working out too well. The only thing that is working out well, though, is that Foxay assumingly gets some damage on one of the Soniqs members as they cross the threshold in between attic as well as the dorms area, and he downs Kansan. Kansan now down to only 20 HP. But they still have a lot of time to go, and this means the Soniqs can fight back, and Yeti stepping up to the plate to swing hard into Kino.
Great defense being put up here by the Soniqs, pushing us even closer to OT. However, at the same time, some serious damage taken by both Kansan and Yeti over the course of that one. Frag goes out, banks a little bit, but that bank actually helps them slightly, as I think it does damage to Grixer that it would have otherwise not done had it gone to its original intended target. Probably going to end up being the last one they have, though, as they did have 2 characters with frag grenades trying to throw the artillery at them from down below. Unfortunately, it's failed to make impact, and they are now out of that, only with 3 flashes remaining there on Laxing. 50 seconds left to make the play as well here. So coming down to the wire, Oxygen needs to start putting pressure on Soniqs' hold, and without a kill to prime them for their execute, every step they take is going to be a risk as they inch towards the site. However, thankfully, it's a risk that they take and succeed upon, as Yaga is going to be able to get himself a kill here against Yeti to start off the push.
Well, I assumed every move they made that the Soniqs would be watching them, but that didn't happen either. So 25 seconds remain now for Oxygen to try and force their will onto this site. Still spread out, pretty evenly across the map. Worried about white dorms as well as trophy.
15 seconds
First
left.
leadoff pick is going to be a really big deal here, and it's for Kansan. They're worried about someone at the back of dorms. They get one. Still have Grixer inside of the actual bedroom, though, as Kansan prone claims yet another life. It's down to Laxing,
he's running.
and he doesn't
He's
have
running.
enough time to do it. Oh, no. The Sonics make it through. Round 12 in the bag, and overtime secured.
A win by running away. Not something you get to say very often, but indeed the Sonics get it this time away as their Malusi drops down the hatch and, more importantly, out of the crosshair of the last remaining OXG player's sidearm there, taking away the capability to win inside of regulation and thrusting us into OT here now. 3 more rounds to decide the true winner of this series. That also means that the losing team is now guaranteed at least 1 point for this match. The winner as well will be unable to gain full points for it. They'll only get 2 for the win now.
Yeah, and we've already had 1 OT game today, and every time one of these happens, folks, just remember, this makes it to where our standings for the overall league get tighter and tighter. Those big games where they're actually able to win outside of regulation, 3 points is a very, very big deal in the long run. So to only have 2 and giving up that singular point because of OT could come back to bite them in the end. But nevertheless, it's still those extra points needed to propel themselves forward inside of these standings. Now, just to update you guys, it probably trickled in during this match. For Oxygen and Sonics, they're both actually tied for 4th inside of the standings right now. So whoever wins this is top 4 inside of NA.
All right, so once again, a lot of big things in the line for this specific matchup here, pushing ourselves into a pivotal point of the season until we moved into the super weeks now. So the matches are only going to continue to get more and more intense from this point forward here. OXG versus the Sonics, going the full distance into OT. And now we have to see who can close out as Oxygen will continue their attack here. Sonics will get 1 more round on the defense as we start out with the same sides here. And OXG as well, already putting some pressure into small tower. A few more players were likely going to work their way around to the big tower push. So a pretty standard opener from the attackers here in the first round of OT.
This is what we're pretty much used to from Oxygen for their pushes onto Oregon. This freezer clear working their way downstairs. Good intel for Yogg as well, but not too much going on just yet. Sonic's going to turtle up, don't want to give away too many bodies, and you can't exactly blame them. Although Oxygen are prepared for the execute. We have Vertical back on the Ying, which we saw be extremely potent just a few rounds ago, as Oxygen simply walked onto site with all those flashes going off, and we'll see if they can make this happen once again. Now, for the defense, they actually have quite a bit of utility to prevent this from happening, whether it be my discs, ADSs, or a Saria gate. We'll have to see, but we'll have to see if Oxygen are actually able to burn through all of that. That's a big question for me moving into these last couple of minutes. But still, for Oxygen, it's going to be what we expected, just them simply getting some hatches open and no real action happening from the defense.
Sonics trying to take some aggressive positions, most notably on the back and freezer stairs, as well as watching those laundry steps too, trying to punish any sort of aggressive push forward here from the OXG roster whatsoever. And at the same time, as we take a look at OXG's actual position upstairs, we're back to the old standard when it comes to this round here, or at least the old focus, I guess you could say here. It's going to be that box inside of electrical that so many attacking teams have to spend so much time clearing out. A little bit of a different flair this time coming in from OXG. They've got a 2-man push working their way in from construction, where I think traditionally we've seen most of this pressure come from the back stairs spot. So hoping to change up their fate, hoping to change up the strategy, and hopefully changing up their speed with which they can work their way into this site.
Well, finally down into the last minute, and nobody trying to get too aggressive on anything as of right now. I mean, we do have Oxygen moving for Pillar. We're going to have Sonics back off of Elbow as utility starts to get cleared. Rexon actually going to stay inside of Boiler as E-Box is obliterated by the Sonics. It's more like a kill box as bloodshed goes everywhere. A wide swing from the Jaeger. It's Rexon, and as beautiful as always with those shots, Yogg and Fox both fall to the same man as it's once again down to Laxon, and these overtime rounds are not coming easy. Sonics with a flawless.
A convincing round and a passionate one there from Yeti, it seems, as he really lets it out at the end of that round there. The Sonics pushing themselves one step closer and now only 1 round away from closing out this matchup, and indeed taking the position of their opponents currently inside of the division, surpassing them and pushing the Sonics into the top 3. Pause looks like it's going to come out here. From which team, I'm not entirely sure, but there we go. I know now. It's Oxygen's time out, as they're going to use an OT here to figure out what exactly went wrong in that round, what needs to be corrected on the follow-up after this one, but arguably much more importantly, what the heck do we do for this round?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Like you can think long term and go, okay, how do we win this game? But you have this round right now that is a must win for OXG to stay in this. There's only 3 rounds inside of overtime, so if they lose this, the Sonics are going to take this one 8-6. But I think it's a good time for a timeout. I honestly wish it was a little bit earlier on what is inside of regulation, just because I feel like Oxygen could have seen this one coming, right? They get 3 rounds in a row, and as soon as the Sonics won that basement round inside of round 11, I would have been great time to call that timeout and see if they can possibly win it out inside of regulation. But I mean, that's in the past and we can't have any effect on that. And it's much better to use it than lose it, right? Like if this went all the way through, everyone would just question them why wasn't the timeout called? So for Oxygen, much better to do it now than never. And they're going to head towards the basement. And this is looking to be the exact same lineup they ran the last time. Still going to have the Aruni in play, Wilma, Jaeger, Smoke, and Malusi. But we are going to have the 6th pick come in here. No more laser gates. It's down to the explosive shields.
Yeah, OXG staying consistent with the meta that we've been seeing over the past couple of months. They seem to be more solidified on that old style of setup compared to the new one, which does bring in Aruni and her laser gates to the table in comparison to the Goyo shield. So I'll stick with the old standard. Sonics obviously bringing the Ying in for those that didn't manage to catch that. So we'll also see a similar flare that we saw on Oxygen's own attacking side back in the previous half here. Yeti, of course, picking that one up, looking to try and seal the deal on the second overtime round. I don't imagine why the setup would be anything away from standard here for OXG as well. So expect more of the same for what you've already seen in these previous defensive setups.
Yeah, they're not doing anything too crazy. I think the only thing that we can really point out inside of the setup that people don't really do is the right-hand side freezer panel there that they have shot out. Usually that one's slapped together and they just play the angle for that now right-hand side panel that faces towards the lockers. But instead, they have that entire thing open just to make it a more difficult angle for any of the Sonics members to attempt to contest from the freezer staircase. And that's a really strong thing as long as you know where they're going to be popping out from. Because that's why I feel like a lot of people get caught off guard is when they're not used to playing a position like that. They don't exactly know where the person's actually going to exit the corner from, because obviously they're coming down a staircase, so it's a different level than just walking on the bare ground. So gotta watch yourself in that. But these guys are pro players. I just wanted to make all of you at home aware, so you're not like, why is this guy literally floating on my screen and shooting me in the face? So
Vertical waxing holding the double team hold here on the front main staircase. You can see them both taking care of that one. That might actually be the freezer stairs now, but either way, getting the best of me here. No, excuse me, it is the front laundry stairs. But either way, fending off the pressure from the Sonics, or what would normally be the pressure from the Sonics. However, there's not a whole lot of that right now. It seems they're all focused on the drone game, trying to find players like Vertical, but instead Vertical finds Grixer, taking him out of the picture, putting it down to a 5v4. Now, Grixer's not in the clear just as of yet here. He will have to fall back or potentially take another fight. Both Yeti and Rexon about to swing into his position. Initially, Vertical doing well, but he's got to deal with 2 different angles now. Players spamming him through soft panels. Yeti being the one to solidify the trade and bring us back down into a 4v4.
Oh, such an aggressive take from Sonics, finally taking down Vertical. He was able to delay a lot of time, but the biggest aspect of it being taking down Grixer. It's been so potent already, has the most frags inside of the game right now, and both of our top frags lying in the grave. So we'll see what these 2 teams can do without them. This round, so very important to both of these squads. Sonics still breaking up this top floor as they did get a little delayed from that roam once again, but this still seems seemingly straightforward. Doesn't seem as though they are really focusing on E-Box at the moment. They do have the hatch open, so they can always rotate back and try and clear out some things, but we'll have to see where this opportunity actually leads them to. Are we going to get this freezer offense, or is it actually going to go through E-Box with this Candelas like we saw previously?
Once again, down to the wire here. Going to see a very late time to execute the Candela. Ready to roll, but is it going to make impact working its way into construction? That's the question right now here. Yeti has had it primed for a while. Gonna dump the flashes first to make sure that the Candela doesn't get eaten up by something hiding on the inside. And there it goes. 1, 2, and a third to follow it up as well here, coming out from Yeti, as all of the Candelas are used to flood down into the basement. Yeti works his way in, but Yaga fades away one of his nitro cells to pick up a response kill. And aside from that, Oxygen are cleaning it up here. Goes down to a 1v2. Kansan, one of the few players able to trade out frags, still alive, and more importantly, still in this 1v2 situation. No players being presented to him, though. He's forced to make an aggressive move, gives himself the case back, but can he get the kill? No. Kino shuts it down. We go the full distance to round 15 to settle this.
Kino's shown exactly why he's been so strong for this squad so far this year. And this guy is a rookie. I mean, every single game we've seen him in so far, he's just been playing lights out. And once again, perfect opportunity or perfect example of why Oxygen picked him up. I mean, that entire round really rested on his shoulders playing inside of construction right there. Able to not only get around the Candela flash, but also pick up the frags on the entry from Soniqs working their way down big stairs. Fantastic stuff from them to try and counter out that Ying execute, because it was done pretty dang well by the Soniqs. So, I mean, for OXG, very, very big round there. 7-7 now for them, and they've switched over to the offense for our very last round here on Oregon. And we're going to have a 6-pick once again. Vertical's been playing so many different operators for this offensive lineup, and he's going to do it yet again. Buck coming in for this final round.
Buck, a potential change-up for the formula, but one that we've seen used quite a bit before. The potential for Oxygen to be able to clear out the lower floor hold, most notably inside of places like security, as well as cafeteria. That'll open up into both large and kids' dorms as well, as he'll obviously be able to use the skeleton key to panel out all of the floors sitting within that site, and potentially reveal a couple of the Soniqs players, allowing them to get away with some early kills should the best case scenario unfold. Very curious to see how this works, as those anchors sitting in deep sight were a problem for Oxygen back during their regulation attack rounds.
Yeah, they were, and taking that into consideration, it begs the question on how Oxygen want to execute with this lineup. I mean, what it seems like you would want to do is flush everyone out of the dorms area with that skeleton key and force them into, you know, a disadvantageous gunfight. So we'll see if they do try to claim that space down low, but they have to deal with Yeti, and I think they know that. He's been down here for most of the time when they run this setup, but it's been mostly centralized around the kitchen area. We haven't seen Yeti go for a deep roam like this one just yet. So honestly, this might be a change up from the Soniqs, you know, just being a step ahead of OXG inside of this last round.
Breaching charge deployed.
Well, already seeing some quick clear work being done by OXG, not gonna have a whole lot of resistance inside of the cafeteria area specifically. Now, Yeti was in the area a moment ago. I saw him aggressively swinging his way out, but he's fallen back in a big way, going all the way to laundry stairs, holding the main stairs as well here right now, and he's not even gonna stick around there. He'll retreat all the way back up. Super is actually gonna find himself drilled out from down below here, so he has to shift into an awkward position. There's not really room for him anywhere else inside of this room, or inside of the attic for that matter, so has to try and find somewhere else where he can hopefully play out the mid and late round here, since Oxygen are clearly starting to cause problems by taking over that for free. And that's not even to mention the fact that we haven't seen the Buck play out as of yet. I don't think he's been able to do much with those skeleton key just as of yet.
No, he hasn't. And, you know, just to update on the roam game as well, Yeti's actually back on site. He's inside or on the top of Armory stairs right now, actually in Armory in the current moment. So that means that the Soniqs are simply battening down the hatches and waiting for the move from OXG. Vertical's worked his way into kitchen as they've finally cleared out the area after popping that hatch, and trying to make it where the Soniqs can't play this space. Looks to be a plant inside of the white bunks area. They can possibly get that to go off. Already using a lot of utility from the defensive end. Super popping his initial smoke going into this last minute as Oxygen continue to dwindle down this defense.
Hansen with the drop down to the basement to try to make the runaround here, as Yeti continues to try and do the same between the second and first floors here. So far, a solid hold from the Soniqs, but all of that extra effort being put in by the Buck to be able to panel out the floors on the inside of kids has certainly made things awkward at the minimum here for the Soniqs, trying to play out the late round. Coming down to 30 seconds, however, all of that work being done by the Buck has yet to actually yield results aside moving players into different positions. They have no kills to play off of. That may be changing soon. Grixer just going into a down state. Super, however, able to immediately trade that back. And even worse, Grixer's back from the dead. Kansan's found a second pickup against Oxygen. Now a third with Grixer reigniting. It's all going the wrong way here for OXG. Not a single kill going into their court. Yeti downed again, but it doesn't matter. It's a flawless round from the Sonics as they take control, they take the map, they take the win, and more importantly, they take third place in the NAL for the foreseeable future.
Wow, what a game from the Sonics, closing it out in excellent fashion upstairs on dorms. I thought that was going to go a lot better for Oxygen, given the consideration of the Buck, but they just weren't able to find anyone upstairs. Even Grixer, he was downed, but they just couldn't finish out the kill. Oxygen tried to go towards the gunfights, and that also just ruins their day. A really hard-fought match from them as well. 3 separate members of OXG inside a double-digit kills.
Yeah, Grixer, I mean, having himself a heck of a game once again. Definitely continuing that incredibly impressive performance that we had seen utilized already in yesterday's game and coming in for a little bit from earlier in the season too. So still earning himself that, I think,